But during these last years, since we have the EPC actually, during the last 4 years, if there's anything we have learned, then this is how vulnerable we are if we have over-dependencies. And it was a painful process to learn about these over-dependencies. I want to mention 3. The first one is the over-dependency on imported fossil fuels. Energy has always been a stumble stone in the internal market of the European Union, which I oversee. But now with the crisis, the conflict in the Middle East, it has really become a choke point for us. And it is this over-dependency on the volatility of the global prices of energy that is painfully hurting our competitiveness. But we have assets, that's also important. We have assets in the European Union. These are the energies that grow at home. It is the renewable energies from wind and sun to hydropower to geothermal, but also to biomass, you name it. And it is nuclear. And we have to build our energy reliance much stronger, much more reliable on these homegrown, cheaper and predictable energy sources that we do have. And for that, it is important that we electrify the European Union. I will not go into the detail, but my first point is energy. Energy is, for us, crucial, and it has to be much more independent that we deliver our energy for the Europeans. Second point is, of course, security and defense. I mean, if there was an eye-opener over the last 4 years, then it is in the fact that we need to be able to stand up for ourselves. It's long overdue. This is the reason why we mobilized up to 800 billion euros till 2030 to fill the gaps that we have in security and defense. It is of utmost importance that we are more independent in this topic and that we are able to build a credible deterrence, because the best prevention of potential military aggression is a credible deterrence. And this is a task where all of us here in the room are assembled to deliver on a much more credible, stronger, together with Ukraine, stronger and reliable security and defense. And my third point is that European independence does not mean inward looking, not at all. It's the opposite. It is reaching out to like-minded partners. I mean, this is symbolic here also, to reach out to like-minded partners, because we need also stable, reliable supply chains. And supply chains we need from partners. And therefore, you have witnessed over the last years that we have very much intensified our network of free trade agreements with Latin America, with India, with Australia, and I will be traveling with Antonio to Mexico. We have the biggest network of free trade agreements worldwide, and we should really cherish this and work with that to make sure that we get more independent and have reliable supply chains. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Ursula. You very correctly mentioned energy, defense and security, and more outward-looking European Union. Let me now go to Georgia. Italy has often underlined, and I fully agree with this approach, that the strategic importance of the Mediterranean and the greater Middle East, promoting what we say as 360 degrees approach between the eastern and the southern flanks, but also to different kind of common challenges. One common challenge that we have is migration. So in today's very complex international environment, how can European countries like Italy better address possible increase on migratory pressures? We have the crisis now in the Middle East, so migration is there. Taking also into account the nexus between migration, stability, and security in Europe.
Okay, thank you very much, Nikos. Good morning, colleagues, and thank you very much, Prime Minister Pashinyan, for this fantastic organization. Well, we are speaking today about a polycrisis, okay? But what does it mean, polycrisis? I mean, I think it is not simply that we are facing lots of crises together. That's it. The problem is all those crises are related one to the other and feed one the other. And I think it is very important we understand that also to face the fact that we cannot simply take care of one or two facets of this crisis, but we have to tackle them all. And I will use exactly, for Nikos was asking about migration, the example of migration. Obviously, we know that uncontrolled migration flows put citizens' security under pressure, and when exploited as a hybrid threat, even the stability of the states. But it's not all. It also affects economy, straining public resources and impacting on labor market. It weakens competitiveness. This weakens competitiveness by increasing uncertainty and social tensions. It has also linked to energy, for we have also to face the fact that many flows come from unstable regions that are key to our energy supplies. Ultimately, all of these affects the quality of our democracies. For when citizens feel that important challenges are not governed, they lose faith in institutions. And when trust erodes, people become more vulnerable to manipulation, including the malicious use of artificial intelligence. So it's not migration. It is migration, it is economy, it is democracy, it is competitiveness, it is energy, it is security. And if I take one of the other topics, I can link them all the same way. So, first of all, we cannot face only one piece of this polycrisis. Second, migration is an integral part of the polycrisis. Third, no one can face it alone. So cooperation on that is a precondition. We did very important steps ahead in the last years at the level of the European Union, where now we have a new asylum pact, we have a new definition of the third safe countries, we are going towards a new regulation on returns that will help us also on, let's say, innovative solutions such as those that Italy is trying to provide. We did steps ahead at the level of the Council of Europe where we are working to give a more modern interpretation of the conventions that we have, but were written lots of years ago. And at the level of the EPC with Keir, we've been promoting another declaration, the past days that now has already reached 31 countries signing. So we are doing a very good job. And in the proposal we did with Keir, the position is quite clear. We have to fight against traffickers. We have to avoid that a new crisis as the one we had in 2015 happens again. And we have to cooperate with the origin and transit countries. And that brings me back to the beginning and to the second part of the question that Nikos did. I mean, the problem is, if we've got this polycrisis, are we able to face it the way it needs to be addressed? My idea is that at the level of the European Union, for example, in recent years, we have shown our ability to respond to emergencies. We did it with the pandemic crisis, we did it with Ukraine. But I also think now we have to step up our game. That means to pass from our capacity to react to our capacity to anticipate. That means we have to focus much more on our strategy in the long term. And this kind of discussions are very useful for that. And the strategy, in my opinion, should be a stronger focus not only on the like-minded countries, obviously it's very, very important, but also on our geographic neighborhood. Obviously, what we are doing now with like-minded countries, with the EPC is very important, and we have to improve it, and I'm very happy that Mark is here. But I think we should also focus, for example, from the point of view of Italy, I think we should focus much more, for example, on our Mediterranean neighborhood. I think we should work also on a forum like the EPC, which is fundamental, obviously, for us in these times, concentrated in the geographical space of the wide Mediterranean. In the past, with Ursula, with other member states, with the European Union, we've been trying to tackle migration. We were pushed to pay much more attention to countries across the Mediterranean. Now, in my opinion, the challenge is to broaden this approach to bring together security, development, energy in our cooperation with the neighboring countries. For this is the best way we have to respond to a crisis which is not only one crisis. It's lots of crises altogether, but unfortunately, they are part of the same crisis, and we have to tackle it all. Thank you.
Thank you, Giorgia. You very correctly raised the issue of tackling the root causes of migration by working together with the countries of origin. Emmanuel, you were the first to propose the European political community, which brings us together to discuss challenges and opportunities. And you have consistently highlighted the importance of European strategic autonomy. How do you see the concept of European strategic autonomy evolving in today's security environment? And another question with regards to the Strait of Hormuz. All of us will commend your leadership on the matter together with Keir. Since we agree what happens in the Middle East directly affects Europe, how do you see the situation evolving and what we can do as Europeans to facilitate the day after with regard to the Strait of Hormuz? Thanks.
Thanks, Nikos. Thank you very much, colleagues. And Nikol, thank you very much for hosting us and organizing this EPC. Look, I really believe that when we speak about strategic autonomy, it was perfectly phrased by Mark in his speech with the list of sectors when we speak about strategic autonomy. It's not just dealing with defense and security and energy, but these components are critical, and food. But now we have to speak about space, we have to speak about semiconductors and so on, because it's impossible to have a sustainable strategic autonomy on defense if you are 100% dependent when you speak about semiconductors to some other countries. So we clearly see, given the integration of our global economy and our innovation system, that building and strengthening our strategic autonomy requires much more focus on these key pillars where we have over-dependencies. And we experienced the cost of over-dependencies during the past few years. In COVID time, when we spoke about masks and some medical devices, the Russian war against Ukraine revealed our over-dependencies regarding gas and Russian gas. We are experiencing the cost of our over-dependencies when we speak about the American umbrella in terms of defense and security. Let's be honest, this is the elephant in the room. But if Mark is here as well, this is because he feels more close to the Europeans, and because we are all together and we consider we have to be more united, because there is a sort of a doubt or a question mark when we speak about the fact that no doubt about the American solidarity on all these fields. And we will probably experience the cost of our over-dependencies vis-à-vis China, no doubt. So the big issue we have is that we have a lot of, beyond the wars and beyond the crisis, we have a big de-risking strategy to deliver, which will request much more investment and coordination amongst the Europeans. And let's be clear, it needs more solidarity, more investment, better organization, in order to better integrate our value chain together and de-risk our value chains from the main geopolitical risks we identify. Which means sometimes deciding to relocalize some productions amongst all of us, diversifying our partnerships in order to de-risk the over-dependencies. But this is the approach we will have to complete in the years to come. And one of the main risks we have is an acceleration of the confrontation, especially between China and US, which could reveal much more rapidly some of these dependencies and put us in a corner. Having said that, I think we have a series of, I would say, assets probably we underestimate, which are the main links we have beyond geography. But I really believe that believing in the democracy, rule-based order, respect of an open trade and free trade, believing in climate change through innovation and reasonable approach, creates a lot of links amongst us, and our predictability in order to deliver this agenda is a big advantage vis-à-vis a lot of non-European players. When I look at the Gulf, when I look at Asian countries, when I look at Latin America or Africa, they just want to have predictable partners. They can disagree with us, sometimes our interests will not be aligned. But as long as we deliver our agenda being predictable, it makes sense. If we go to Hormuz Strait, I think we have a very important role to play. A lot of us were around this VTC we co-organized with Keir, and Giorgia was with us in Paris with Friedrich. And we had a lot of Asian countries, a lot of African countries and Gulf countries. And it was very impressive to see that everybody was aligned. And I think the role we can play is precisely, obviously we are trusted by the US, but we are respected and trusted by the Iranian. We are not naive vis-à-vis the Iranian, but we are not at war with them, which creates a context where we can be this all together. We can provide, I would say, services from diplomatic, military, and economic and financial side in order to facilitate a free reopening of Hormuz Strait. And this is exactly the strategy we are preparing. The planification work was made last week in London. So now we are in a situation clearly to facilitate such a reopening, which puts us in this situation to be this reliable partner and to open this free road. So this is, I really believe, one of the assets we have. But beyond that, I really believe that our interest is to decrease the tensions in a lot of situations, to remain coordinated and full solidarity. Ukraine is by far the hottest topic, but to work all together on this agenda of strategic autonomy. And by the way, I think the work made during the past few years by Nikol on Armenia is very impressive. Let's be honest. I mean, 8 years ago, nobody would come here, and the fact that you have so many first visits in your country is a good signal, because 8 years ago, this country was seen by a lot of countries around the table as a sort of de facto satellite of Russia. Nikol organized this Velvet Revolution and decided to de-risk his country from Russia. And he's still attacked on a daily basis because of that. And the fact that he decided both peace and Europe is a very strong signal. And the resistance war in Ukraine, the Armenian strategy, what is done in Moldova, plus what is done by a lot of countries around the table, is as well the fact that as Europeans, we decided during the past few years to have a collective wake-up call and not to be dependent on any big power. And this is as well one of the preconditions of this strategic autonomy.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. I keep the word predictable partners in this unpredictable world. Keir, under your leadership, we see that the UK is taking a very active role on all issues affecting our continent from Ukraine, including the coalition of the willing, on the issue of the Strait of Hormuz more recently, as well as on the issue of migration. I wanted to ask you if you could elaborate on this collective challenges and on priorities on how we work together.
Well, thank you very much, and it's fantastic to be here. Emmanuel said there's a number of people on their first time visit to Armenia. I'm one of them. And so thank you for the very warm welcome. It's really fantastic to be here, to get a real sense of the history, the culture, but the warmth of the welcome, I think, has been something that all of us who are here for the first time have really noticed, and thank you very much for that. Look, the European political community is a good opportunity for us to come together in this configuration and discuss and return to the challenges that face us all, whether that's the economy, whether that's energy, whether that's irregular migration, as Giorgia has said, which was the theme, actually, of the last EPC that we had just 6 months ago. And there's a declaration that we've put together for this EPC, which is really important in taking that work forward. But what I'd say about this particular summit is that the backdrop has changed. We are now facing a war on two fronts. We're going into the 5th year of the Ukraine war, and we've got the Iran conflict at the same time. And both of those are impacting all of us in a very material way. In the United Kingdom, if you look at the economic forecast now and compare it to the economic forecast just 3 or 4 months ago, they are in materially different places. And this is going to play out with our electorates in all of our countries. The impact is not just economic. Certainly in the United Kingdom and elsewhere, there are proxy attacks going on, both Russia and Iranian, on our streets and by way of cyber attacks. So this is not something remote. It's very real. It's real for Vladimir, and we, of course, stand with him, as we always have. But it's impacting us. The third way it's impacting us has already been alluded to, which is that we cannot deny that some of the alliances that we have come to rely on are not in the place we would want them to be. There is more tension in the alliances than there should be. And it's very important that we therefore face up to this as a group of countries together. At the tactical level, I think we've been pretty good. So on the coalition of the willing in relation to Ukraine, we've put together and sustained a group of countries around a single purpose, which is security guarantees for Ukraine. So a group of willing countries working together with a common purpose or a single purpose, where we've got the political alignment, but we've also got the military planning into quite an advanced place. That model is the one that we've borrowed into the Strait of Hormuz. Again, a group of willing countries, slightly different configuration, but with a single purpose, which is to provide the necessary backup and reassurance for the Strait of Hormuz to be opened as quickly, or for vessels to get through as quickly as possible. And I think that proves that we can be agile, we can be tactical, and we can bring together countries in those configurations, so long as there's a single purpose. But strategically, we have to do more than that, because if we talk about defense and security, in Europe, we've got behind. Over many years now, we're not where we need to be. There needs to be a stronger European element in NATO. I have no doubt about that. So across defense and security and trade and energy, all of which have been weaponized, we need a much stronger Europe coming together around these issues. And I think we're all saying versions of the same thing, but I really do feel it goes back to what you said, Mark, in a way. As we come through the challenges that face us, it has to be Europe now that leads the way. And I feel that on defense and security, we've been behind the curve for too long, over dependencies, over reliance, some assumptions about the world that we live in. They've gone. We now need to lead out of this, and we need to do it at pace, because these impacts are real. The alliances that are under tension are real, and how we as a group of leaders respond now will likely define what goes on for many years arguably for a generation. So I feel this is a really important moment to come together and have these discussions about what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and what action then follows from that. Thank you very much, Nikol.
Thank you, Keir. Thank you all. I think it is clear from the discussion that the strength of the whole of Europe approach lies in our shared values. We have shared values. We share values and principles, and by defending the sovereignty and the freedom of every corner of our continent, we are not just protecting our borders and our citizens, but at the same time, we are securing a peaceful future. Thank you very much, and thank you very much once again for hosting us here.